All right, welcome back to Virtual School Assembly. Today our guest is Kyle Willkom. Kyle is a sought-after keynote speaker, a workshop facilitator, and an educational consultant. He's the founder of Action Packed Leadership, LLC, a leadership development company focused on helping young people become the best versions of themselves. Through Kyle's speaking, books, and online resources, he's reached hundreds of thousands of young people with messages of kindness, positivity, and action. In his free time, Kyle enjoys going to outdoor adventures with his wife, Danielle, eating pizza, and watching Milwaukee Bucks basketball games. Kyle, let me hand you the virtual microphone. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm excited about it. And I wanted to share with you just a message today on action, what it looks like, what it feels like, some of the positive things we can see in our lives when we do it right. And so one thing that in my life happened that I felt was pretty crazy is in the summer of 2015, a friend of mine approached me and he said, "Hey, Kyle, I'm starting a business. I want you to be my first employee." I said, "No way. I have a job. I want to do my job and I'm good at it." And he said, "Kyle, I need you as a part of this business." And for a long time, I pushed him off. I said, "Absolutely not. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to join." And finally the stars just aligned. I needed something new, something different. And so I joined him on this quest to be this $1 million business. And as you might imagine, some things didn't go our way and some things did. And throughout the course of time, I learned a lot from that experience. But the thing that taught me the most was actually the biggest failure that we ever had. And what happened was within 9 months, we had become $1 million business. We had built this business. I started to see my future at this company. The next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, this was going to be my life. And I was excited and passionate and I was moving forward. And one day my friend called me into his office and he said, "Hey, Kyle, can I talk to you for a second?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. This happened all the time." And when I got there, he said, "Kyle, we don't think this is working out." I said, "We don't think what's working out? The project we're working on?" He said, No. I've seen the future of this company. We don't think you're going to be a part of it." And it felt like just a punch in the gut. This company that I helped build, that I helped make $1 million business, that I saw my future at, I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. And I had to leave there that day with tears in my eyes, just frustrated. And I walked out of there and I called some friends of mine. We sat down at a local restaurant and we had dinner together and I just ranted. I just vented and got it all out and was like, I can't believe he'd do this. And this was my future and everything was going right. What is going on? And if I fast forward about 2 years, the biggest lesson that I learned came to fruition, because after I had vented in that restaurant, I walked out of there completely refreshed. I had just gotten it all out of my system to my friends. And I had a moment where I said, you know what? This could be the biggest opportunity that I've ever had. And you may have had an experience like this in your life where you've been kicked, you've been down, and you can either sulk about it and you can lay in your bed and be upset about what happened to you, or you can see it as an opportunity, as a way to grow or develop or create something new in your life. And what that meant for me was I wanted to sell all of my things. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, which was a state that I always thought was pretty cool. I moved in with a bunch of roommates so I could get the least rent I could possibly pay. And I started my business. I started Action Packed Leadership. And from there, it's kind of history. When I started believing in myself, things started to happen. I started to spread messages of kindness and positivity and growth. I've now spoken in 47 different states to audiences of all sizes. I even met the love of my life in Nashville, Tennessee, and we got married in January. So big things happened when I didn't see it as just this big, terrible thing in my life, but as an opportunity to be better and to do better. But the biggest thing happened 2 years later when I went back to Wisconsin to visit a couple friends, the ones that got dinner with me after I had been fired. We decided to go to the same restaurant we ate at 2 years before. We sat down and the same waitress from 2 years prior comes walking out of the kitchen and she sees our table and she says, "Oh no, I remember you guys." And she points right at me, just in my face. It was a little rude. She points at my face and she says, "You're a jerk." And I never will forget this moment when she just pointed at me and I said, oh my gosh, like I speak about kindness and positivity and opportunities and this great stuff. But what did I do? She said, I remember it like it was yesterday, 2 years ago. You guys came in here and I was having a really rough day. I was crying in my car before my shift, but I pulled myself together and I came in here to do the best I could possibly do. And I came to your guys' table and you didn't give me the time of day. Seemed like you were upset, you were frustrated, you were angry. All you did was just vent to your friends and you ignored me and wrote me off. And if getting fired was like a punch in the gut, that moment right there was just like a dagger to my heart. And I'll never forget it in the sense that if we look at opportunities as positive, that's great. If we start to move forward in the directions of our dreams, that's fine. But none of it means anything unless we're kind to the people around us along the way. So as you go out there, as you pursue your dreams and pursue your passions, just remember that there are people out there who also need you, even if you don't know it.
Yeah, it's a great message. And we never know when those moments are going to happen. I mean, the waitress was probably the last thing on your mind that night because
Really?
you were in a place where you needed help, you needed support. And so that's a challenging thing. So for those kids out there watching this, what can we do to be more aware of those around us, even when we are struggling, even when we need help? What are some things that we can do just to be more aware of others and their needs?
Absolutely. One thing I've often said, and I think a couple other people that I'm good friends with have preached this as well, but make your fight bigger than your feelings. When the things you believe in, the things you value, the things you're going to fight for over time are bigger than the way that you feel on a given day, you're going to push yourself to do it even if you don't feel like it. So if you're tired or you're stressed or you're a little overwhelmed, are you still going to be kind to the people around you just because you really care enough to do it, to overcome your feelings in that moment, but do it anyway? And the
Right.
second thing I would say about it is that motion creates emotion. So whenever we start to move, we start to feel a little bit more. And so if you feel lackadaisical or that you don't want to do it, take a walk. Start to look people directly in the eyes, smile a little more often, like let your actions speak for themselves. And a lot of times this creates this snowball effect in our lives where one action leads to the next, leads to the next. And pretty soon the impact you're making is bigger than what you could have foreseen when you first started.
Yeah, that's great. Now, what you do for a living is talk about leadership, and you've written several books. You had one come out 7 years ago, another one about 3 years ago, and your newest book is coming out now. First, tell us a little bit about your new book and what it's about, but then we're going to dig into leadership from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this new book is called Action Packed Leadership, and it's just a framework for inside out leadership, meaning how do we think about some of the things in our lives that could potentially naturally become our actions? I think there's this gap in this world between what we know to be right and true and what we do about it. And so my entire goal as a speaker has been to get other people to bridge this gap, to say, I know this is right. I know this is true. I know these are the values I should live by, the skills I should obtain. Now, what do I do about it? So it's this new book is this mixture of how do we think? What do we do? And then is there that spark inside us that's actually going to get us to move across that bridge from thought to action?
Okay. Now, a lot of the kids watching this haven't ever considered themselves leaders. Maybe they don't even want to be leaders. So I'm curious, just as we talk about leadership, are you of the opinion that everyone can be a leader or should be a leader?
So I'm of the opinion that everyone already is.
Okay.
And so it's maybe a unique way to think about it, but I think leadership is all about influence, the
Hmm.
influence that we have on the people around us. And I bet if anyone watching this were to really think about it, I bet you could think of one person that you have some sort of influence over right now. Could be a little sibling, it could be your parents, it could be one of your friends, but someone looks at you and makes decisions based on what you do. And that type of influence is leadership. Now, whether you're a great leader, whether you're actually leading someone in a negative way, that's up to you. But I believe that everyone out there is already a leader, and now it's just, what do we do with it?
Great. I'm glad you feel that way, because what I know, when you talk about action-packed leadership, you're talking about the kinds of things that make people, better human beings, more kind, more understanding. And everyone can certainly do that. You don't have to be a real vocal leader to be caring and kind to other people. But I also want to get back to this idea of being action-packed. I know a little bit about you, Kyle, and I know that you're a doer. In fact, I was watching, so you have videos on YouTube about this comedic rap that you do. Talk a little bit about why you decided to do this with your buddies, and why you took action in the first place in just doing something that was fun. It didn't necessarily make the world a better place, but it was just fun. Why did you do it?
Yeah, for sure. And to your point, I think nowadays everybody thinks of the hobbies that they have as, how can I monetize this?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something to be said about just doing something because you like it, because it's fun. You can have a great time with your friends. And so when I was a freshman in college, we decided to form a band. And our band was called the Spanish O'Donnells. And it's a goofy name because we were a goofy band. And we created these comedic raps and put them out there on YouTube. And after one day, we had about 4 views, and we all thanked our parents. And, after about 2 days, we had like 10 views, and we're like, cool, we have a couple friends. And then we had 1,000, and then 2,000, and then 20,000, and then 100,000. And it was just this really unique experience to kind of, for a moment in my life, go viral for something goofy and unique. And I've now kind of meshed that, because everybody wants a speaker who's engaging. And I love to play some fun songs, to do some fun things alongside the message. So not one or the other, but to have some fun and also learn along the way. And so at the very beginning, it was just for fun. It was to have a great time with some friends. We ended up getting hired by companies and organizations to make songs and jingles for them. And it ended up being a part-time job of mine during college. So who knows what can come of it? And but don't just go after something you think you could monetize. Do something because you enjoy it, and it could become a great hobby in your life.
That's awesome. Now, I have 2 thoughts on that. The first one is, when it comes to leadership, I like that you did this just because it was fun, but it grew into something where you did have influence. And so often we have kids who only become YouTubers or TikTok stars because they want to go viral, because they want to be influencers, but they don't know what they're going to influence for, right? So they just want to be internet famous for a while. You took a different approach. You did something just because it was you. It was an important part of who your authentic self was. You were having fun with your buddies. And as you mentioned, it gave you opportunity for influence. So people did watch the videos. You had actually some opportunities that came from it as far as doing the commercials and stuff. But I want to talk about that authentic self for just a second when it comes to leadership. What can kids do so that they are pursuing things for the right reasons? I think too often they're doing it just for the fame or the celebrity, for the fleeting moment. What have you done in your life to kind of build up things of substance over time?
Yeah, I think it starts with self-awareness. When we're truly aware of who we are, we become a little more aware of what we can bring to the world. So I think taking a deep dive, asking yourself some important questions like, who am I? And you might struggle a little bit with the answers to these questions. I know when I was in high school, people would say, do what you're passionate about and you'll never work a day in your life. And I was like, well, what is that? All of a sudden I was a lot more scared than I was empowered. And so I think that you should, just start asking yourself some questions and wrestle with them. And don't be afraid of what you start to find, because when you start to find things that you love, that you want to try, that put a smile on your face, don't be afraid to go after those. And I think it's this step-by-step process. You're constantly climbing this ladder of, who are we becoming? Who am I going to be tomorrow? And when you start to take the first step, well, it becomes a little easier to see what that next step might be. We're all climbing different ladders. And so you kind of have to decide which one you're on before you're going to be on the rooftop of any, type of infrastructure.
Right. Now, I've seen a few, or at least parts of a few of your presentations, and you have a lot of fun on stage. I think the reason a lot of people hire you is because you're yourself. You're so genuine, and you're doing things like you'll pull a guitar up and you'll do, a song to accompany a message that you're sharing. The first time you brought a guitar up on stage, were you scared to death, or was it totally natural for you?
I was scared to death. And, I think it was interesting because it was early on and I was like, I really want to talk about goal setting, but I am going to go up and do this crazy rap about the Army. And it was really fun. And afterwards, nobody came up and talked to me about goal setting. I think I needed to work on that part of my talk a little bit more, but they did come up and talk to me about how unique it was. And I think that was, a great reminder that, when I was a freshman in college, the dean of my university said, much is expected from whom much is given. Mm-hmm. And I've always remembered that. And I kind of looked at him that day and was kind of like, you sure you know what you're asking me? Like, if much is expected from whom much is given, well, I've been given a talent to maybe rap in a comedic way. Like, you sure you want me to bring that into the world, But as I started to hone the skills, both in speaking and in comedic, music, I felt like they meshed even better. And, you kind of figure out the dynamic of why do people hire you? It's not just to be funny and it's not just to be impactful. You kind of have to do both. And that's what being unique and authentic and yourself and a speaker kind of should be.
Right. And I love that you've been able to do that in your speaking life. But as you talk about action-packed leadership, that's something that we're all seeking after, right? We're trying to find that balance of being true to ourselves, but also giving value to the world, like making sure that they're engaged. So as you do trainings and workshops and talk to people about action-packed leadership, what's one or two things that you routinely are saying, let's do these things and you'll be a better leader? So just give us one or two nuggets there.
Yeah. So I talk to people all the time about becoming a hero for others, that once we go out of our comfort zone to be a hero for someone else, then we truly start to make a difference in this world. And I've narrowed it down because people say, well, what does that mean? How do I become a hero? Why are you using the word hero? And it's an acronym I've created for what I believe we should be doing, the actions we should be taking. And so if we break it down, hero, HERO, the first thing we need to do is help. When we see an opportunity to go out of our comfort zone for someone else, we need to step up and we need to do it. The second thing is engage. We need to engage with someone else in a real, genuine way. We need to look people in the eyes, maybe put our phones down every now and again. The R stands for respond. As many of you know who are watching this right now, a lot of times we respond just emotionally, and it's dramatic and it might be negative, but when we take a step back and we respond with patience and with poise, we are truly responding with the best version of ourselves. And the O stands for own your power. When you choose to really own it and stop doubting yourself and stop thinking that you can't make a difference, but truly go after it and say, I can have an impact. When you choose to help, engage, respond, and own your power, you're going to make a difference. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I promise you it's going to be positive.
Awesome. Well, I think your message today is certainly helping kids get towards being a hero. And I really appreciate the message that you've brought today about action-packed leadership. If kids want to connect with you or follow what you're doing, is there a best place to find you online?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram. Heck, find me on TikTok if you want to. It's just my full name, Kyle Willkom. And by all means, if you ever need anything from me, feel free to reach out on my website, which is kylewillkom.com.
Awesome. Kyle, thank you so much for being here and sharing this message with us.
Thanks for having me on.